He's here to talk to you tonight about change.
Thank you. In September of 2009, I made the trip of my life. I went to Israel. I never thinking that I was ever going to end up in Israel. I went with Talal, who was working on his dissertation. I was going to be a research assistant. I was a bad research assistant. That didn't work out so well. While I was in Israel, Israel is it's an interesting place. I would describe it as mystical. Not having ever been there, not knowing what to expect, I left Israel with two profound gifts that I want to share with you tonight, because it affects everything that I do, and certainly the topic that I want to discuss tonight, which is change. So one day what we would do is we would work at the University of Tel Aviv Monday through Thursday. Friday's a Sabbath. And then on Saturday we would travel out into Israel. We were there for about 5 weeks. And so then on Saturday we would travel out to all the different places. And this particular day we were going to Jerusalem. And on the bus there, on the way there, I felt this wall of emotion come up, energy that I'd never quite felt before. It was very interesting to me. And it literally came out of nowhere. And I turned to Talal. I'm very empathic and very sensitive to energy. That's just how I am, and I've always been that way. And I was feeling it. And the thing that I wanted to do most genuinely was I wanted to begin to sob, and I wanted to begin to cry, because it was really a sweet and beautiful and wonderful energy that was trying to make contact with me. And I turned to Talal and I said, Talal, do you feel this? And Talal was asleep and he went like this. So much for that great energy I was feeling. We landed in Jerusalem that day, and we ended up at a place called the Wailing Wall. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. And I felt compelled to go touch the Wailing Wall. I'm very glad that I did, because that was the experience that has changed me forever until present day. I've had a couple profound moments that have changed me, and that was one of them. So I walked down to the wall, and as I was walking down, this rabbi grabbed me, and he said, please come with me. And God bless his heart, he took me into a back room, into the back caverns. And he said, put your hands here, which is the Torah. And they surrounded me and they prayed for me. And it was the most beautiful thing. So I got blessed. And then as I started to leave, he went like this. That was a tip, I guess. So I pulled out a couple shekels and I gave it to him. And he went, it was a good blessing. More. So I gave him more shekels. I walked out to the wall. And it was September. September is the second hottest month of the year in Israel. And so I walked up to that wall and I just went for it. I put both hands on there and my face, and I just buried myself in that singeing hot wall. And I got a message that said, wait for it for just a second. Just hold on. Because I thought I was supposed to pray. I did not. I got a very clear voice. I've gotten that voice a couple times over my life. It's always very clear. It's always very precise. It's quiet and loving and gentle, and I listen carefully. I listen carefully whenever it comes. And it said, wait for it. And at that point in time, I had what I would call a metaphysical experience, because it just was not of this plane or this earth. And I'm even reluctant to talk about it most times, but I need to talk about it now because it's how we set up the idea of change and the problem with change. So as I sat there that day and I put my hands and my face into that hot brick wall, what I'll tell you was that I became bathed in absolute love. I have never experienced anything like that before, and I have never experienced anything like that again. And what it felt like, every cell in my body, every fiber of my being, every essence of who I was being bathed in love, and it was beautiful. It was fantastic. I had never experienced anything like that. And I became absolutely convinced. I got the thought that God is love. That God was love. And that was God that I was experiencing. And it was very clear. It was not about brown skin. I'm going to walk a little bit for this. Not about white skin. It's not about brown skin. It's not about black skin. It's not about dogma. It's not about conservative. It's not about liberal. For God's sakes, it's certainly not about building walls. It was about love. It's just that simple. Just that simple. And I saw at that moment in time that if I could live my life in love, and construct my life in love, that I was going to be all right. The problem then comes with my humanness and the things that have to happen after that, which is change. Change is difficult. Now that I have this profound experience, I think to myself, what am I going to do with this? I have to do something. And it was at that point in Israel gave me two gifts. The first one was that love and my first experience of God like I'd never had before. The second one was that I finally saw the problem with change. And you know, I didn't have to go far because my clients and my patients, I'm a substance abuse counselor. I help people get clean and sober. That's what I do for a living. And they had already given me the clue time and time and time and time again why change was so difficult for so many people. And this was why, and I saw this in Israel, because there was a trifecta, a doomsday trifecta of lies that takes place in every alcoholic and addict who comes into my group room. They all get invested in these. And that's why change is so hard. The first of the trifecta then is this lie about my value. And this usually happens as a small child. This usually happens when I have no harm reduction skills. This usually happens when I can't have a meta conversation in my own mind. It means I'm usually young and vulnerable, and something happens in my environment, and whatever happens makes me believe that I am absolutely worthless. Everybody else is normal and right and good, but I'm somehow just defective to the core of who I am. And then every time in my environment that stimulus gets repeated, whether it's a school teacher or whether it's a parent or whether it's a friend or whether it's TV or a magazine, whatever, whenever that gets repeated, that stimulus, I then begin to accept as the truth that I am a defective person. I now have broken the filter on how I see life, and everything is skewed through that. I see myself as broken. I see myself as fundamentally less than. Lie number one, I'm defective. Lie number two, alcohol and drugs, behaviors, sex, shopping, gambling, can do for me what I cannot do for myself. Because what happens is when I'm 13, 14, 15, 16, and I go out and I have beer for the very first time in my life, what that translates into is brain chemistry and lots of dopamine. And I think, well, yeah, life is good. But I didn't realize at that exact moment, and what most people don't, once again, without any harm reduction skills, without the ability to understand, was that I just experienced a sense of emotional equilibrium. I got what was right, and I got that from a beer, or I got that from weed, or I got that from sex, or I got that from attention, or I got that from shopping, or I got that from working out. And that feels good because, you know, in a lifetime committed to this lie of I'm not a worthwhile person, when I take this substance or behavior and I get dopamine, now all of a sudden I'm okay. Lie number two, I can outsource and do what I need to do to make myself feel better. I'm equal. Number three, which is the saddest, and that is the abolishment of hope. It means I cannot change and I will not change. I am who I am. I am who I am, and that is never going to change. And what we do then, and this is when it's really sad, this is when it's really tragic, is we abolish hope. There is no hope for me. This is my lot in life. This is just how it is. I have seen, I cannot tell you how many countless of times people have walked through my office door, they sit at my desk, they come into the group room and we start working, and they can't look at anywhere else but the floor because the abolishment of hope is gone. They just can't get it. So, I'm worthless. The drug does for me what I can't do for myself. I have lost hope. First job of a chemical dependency counselor is to go where this all starts. The first of the trifecta, I am worthless. And this is a beautiful, amazing moment when you take somebody and as a clinician, you walk them into the group and you walk them through the therapeutic process, and we say, come. Because what I'm going to do is we are going to transcend space and time, my friend, and we're going to go over here and we're going to look at what the problem was. Usually you get that as a result of an inventory. What is the problem? Then once we identify the problem, I'm going to set you free because you know what? It's a lie. You have fundamentally been invested in a lie. Now we're going to bring this forward to current day, and that is where sobriety starts, and that is how change starts to happen. Change is not always easy. You know, we see lots of books, we see lots of people, we talk about change all the time, and in fact, I do see some people who change, and it's just so easy for them. It's like, you know, a Big Mac and some change. There exists a whole other group of people, a lot of people, who change doesn't come so easily for. This is my job. This is what I would propose to you. This is what my clients, the greatest teachers ever, have taught me over the last 12 and 13 years of doing this, and certainly what I took away from Israel. Stop believing in the lie. The lie is the lie. Let me help you see that. Let me help you off that. Let me help you get past it. Let me help you heal. Let me help you move on. Let me give you a set of truths. Let me give you a set of tools. We can change. It just requires a little help. Thank you.